My name is Konrad. I think that will suffice when it comes to my surname. I'm actually Polish, so I will not pronounce it for you. I will save you that despair today. Konrad is completely fine. I work with Staffan. Staffan is our CEO, so I work at Stockholm Business Region. I'm responsible for establishments and investments, among others in this sector, so for construction and infrastructure, but I also work quite a lot with defense. Of course, it ties all together. But I have, during my 5.5 years at Stockholm Business Region, now helped a lot of companies from very different countries to enter this market. And we've seen Staffan talking about the vast investments that are planned in the region. We've heard about the market picking up from a bit of a slowdown. 124 billion is still a very impressive number, even in European terms. But for many international firms that do establish here, we've often heard that it is a bit of a challenging market. And we kind of want to have these sessions, this one and also the one that comes after, to kind of decompose that myth, I would say, a bit. Of course, there are challenges, but they can be overcome. So this panel expressly will talk about companies that have succeeded on the market from different perspectives. And with that being said, I would like to introduce our panelists today. First of all, we have Leo Wallin, the market manager and director for major projects at NYAB. Welcome up. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Welcome Leszek Legat, the managing director of the Pekabex Gdańsk branch. Welcome up. And last but not least, Christer Wikberg, client director at Ramboll, Sverige. Perfect. How are you guys feeling?
Good.
It's okay. It's okay. Perfect. I mean, you've all had different types of experiences with international companies and the Swedish market. Leszek, you're a company from Poland that have successfully entered the market in different segments. Leo, you have been previously working for a Dutch company, introducing them to the Swedish market. Now you work with a Swedish-Finnish company. You should introduce yourself in a minute. That has one of the big procurements that Staffan was talking about, the Uppsala Light Rail. And Christer, you work at Ramboll, so you have worked with a lot of companies that have entered the market. But I would like to give you the word for a couple of seconds. If you could please introduce yourself. Maybe you should start with you, Leszek.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Leszek Legat. I'm representing Pekabex. We are a company from Poland, one of the leading producers of precast concrete structures in Central Europe. I've been working in Pekabex for over than 16 years, and Pekabex is actively working on the Swedish market since 2011. We've been mainly working on in the residential and industrial structures.
Thank you. My name is Leo Wallin. I'm the market director and head of major projects for NYAB. NYAB is one of the fastest growing Swedish contractors, and we're also active in Finland, as Konrad mentioned. And we are general contractors focused on civil works and energy related projects, where a good example is indeed the Uppsala Light Rail project, where we are the main contractor in a JV together with a Spanish company. And it's a contract for about 500 million euros for the main works of the project, and then the rest of the budget is of course for rolling stock and etc. etc. But we are doing all of the civil works contracting and the railway works contracting within our project together with our client Uppsala Kommun.
Okay, Christer Wikberg, sorry for my voice today. Client director for Ramboll Sweden, and I think this dialogue with the international contractors suits us really well. As we say, we are a local company because we are organized with the global content, but still we have the local presence. So when we meet the international contractor, we have already met them down in Europe or other markets. So it's rather natural.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining the panel today. And I would like to start a bit to get an understanding of the market. You represent kind of different sectors, both infrastructure but also residential. What would you say makes the Swedish construction market, in general, appealing and maybe different as well for companies from abroad?
Yeah, it's from our perspective, it's what makes it's a very attractive market. That's for the first one. It's stable, it's predictable, it's a focus on the growth. So it's what I can say. It's very attractive. Of course, the last couple of years was quite difficult, but I think it was all over the world, or at least Europe. What makes it different? Yeah, it's I'm coming from the Central Europe, so the culture of making business is a little bit different. We are for quite a long time now on the market, so it's I can say we are familiar how to do the business here. It's except that it's attractive market for sure. It's a challenging as well. It's a demanding market. It's a huge demand on the quality. As I mentioned, there is a little bit different way of communication. We can probably later on talk about the differences. But I was really happy to listen the previous speakers, because I also noticed that the market is slowly starting to grow again. Of course, now we have some a little mess in the Middle East, so we will see how it will affect. But we strongly believe that it's going to be as active, or maybe not maybe as active as 2020, 2021, where it was really hot in the residential, but it's slowly growing up. So we see a lot of possibilities.
If I would try to add something to what was already said, I think that you can also see, when it comes to what makes Sweden an attractive market, that it's incredibly quickly growing. So if you look over a decade or so, I mean, I'm sure the market has doubled or something along those lines. So the growth really needs to be handled. And part of that solution is, of course, fast-growing local companies such as ourselves. And another thing that we see a lot in the market is international companies that are bringing competence and knowledge to the Swedish market. When it comes to what is challenging or different, I'd say that doing business in Sweden is quite different than in many other cultures. We have a very certain business culture. And I think there's quite a threshold to get to know that. So I think that on the technical side, it's more of an openness when it comes to it, bringing in more technical competence to Sweden. But when it comes to the business climate, that's sometimes tricky. That's why in some large and major projects that we work with, we choose to collaborate with international project companies. And when we do those collaborations, we typically provide a lot of the leadership within the project when it comes to business culture, commercial matters, project management matters, but then we look for partners to collaborate with that bring a lot of technical expertise and knowledge to the market.
Maybe, Christer, we had a question here about procurement. I think you've been working with that part quite a lot. I mean, it's often perceived as pretty complex and rule-driven. Do you have a view on that and how to approach it?
I can take it, and I think it's first of all, I want to challenge it from a Swedish perspective with our own procurement departments that need to a little bit step up. And we have seen in many cases is the contractors want to have a more technical discussion during the procurement period.
Yeah.
So we need to open up for that, because we need something new into Swedish, new production methods and so on. So if there's someone from the procurement department here, we need to follow the rules, but try to open up a little bit for this dialogue. So we really get some value, and that's what we want on the Swedish market also. Otherwise, it's, I would say, I don't say it's complex, it's rule-driven, and it's just fulfill the rules or the demands. It's rather simple, I will say. But I'm a Swede. So.
But I mean, to add to that, I think that we see that a lot of the large projects now, they're arranging market dialogues before they start the procurements. And I think that's a great tool that can be further developed and be really something where the procurement managers can listen to the market and integrate their knowledge into the projects at an early stage. So I think that is something we can do more of and going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think also the difference is that procurement process is pretty long. There is quite a lot of the whole purchasing process, even in a private sector, it's pretty long. There is a lot of meetings, a lot of discussion. So the simple thing is, if I could give advice to enter in a companies who want to enter, just be patient. Just be patient because you need it.
Yeah.
You need, and that's, I think that's typical.
Yeah, and
Very typical.
It's no secret that we want to have meetings in Sweden.
Yeah.
Usually the meetings are about the weather. Today the weather is pretty nice, so at least we can avoid that. Of course, Leo, you work for NYAB. NYAB has grown very rapidly over the last years. And you work both with Swedish and foreign partners. Have you learned anything about integrating, international expertise or international, I don't know, construction materials that come into Sweden with, local operations and Swedish regulations and the Swedish, system that we live in and we procure in?
First of all, I've also learned how to be patient. These things can be quite long processes, but that they can very much be worth it. And that the same topics that we are discussing here in Sweden about, for example, sustainability and digitalization, there's a lot of parallel development in other markets where we can really exchange knowledge and look at suppliers in a very interesting way together. So I think we're also learning from our international partners, and we're finding new suppliers through them that we find is very rewarding. So it's really a give and take relationship where we help each other solve a large challenge together.
And I think, from your perspective, Leszek, when Pekabex entered the Swedish market a couple of years ago, you didn't enter as a general contractor. You entered rather like a sub-supplier. How did you build, credibility? Because now you're also a general contractor after many years. You've had many projects. I think you have one project in Solna, just north of Stockholm, for example. How did you build that credibility and, find the first Swedish project?
We started step by step. It's in the very beginning, we didn't chase for large contracts. It was more like that we were trying to build some relations here locally. And show our value by the small and medium projects. And then further on, that was moving on, and we started to build our reputation. It is like that the reputation here in Sweden you build extremely long. Maybe not extremely, but you build it long, and of course you can lose it very, very, very quickly. So we focus on that we wanted to find the contracts where we can have a full control on that, then simply return the business, and then for sure we want to be very transparent to our clients, what we can and what we cannot do. And then project by project, now we have over 300 projects already done here in Sweden. So, but it takes time. It takes time. I think it was I don't know. Maybe we have presented something like 40 offers before we got the first order. It was quite typical because before I joined the Pekabex, I was working for a couple of years for NCC in a procurement for heavy structures, and I was on the other side and was buying the structures from the Polish and the Baltic states companies, and many companies simply they gave up after 5, 4, 5, 6, 7 offers. They were expecting that, okay, they were just trying our prices just to lower the local prices. But simply, as I mentioned, it takes time. Yeah. So something like that. Yeah.
Time and patience, basically. And talks about the weather.
I think that maybe you need to think about it as a market first, not a project first. So don't find one project that you would like to do and think that will be the project for your company, but rather think about the market as a whole. Does it have the long-term attractiveness, and then look at how to enter the market first, and then look at the projects.
Christer, you've worked with international contractors. Probably some of them have succeeded, some of them have failed.
Yeah.
Miserably sometimes.
But I think it's good what both these gentlemen have said, that you need to start to crawl before you walk, and you need to walk before you run. That's really as you have done when you enter the market. But also what we have seen some mistakes when general contractors coming into the market and they are seized as a transaction business, then you are a little bit I will say, out of business. And that's not what we need in Sweden. We don't need someone coming here just picking up Swedish subs and Swedish design. And we need someone that also add some machinery, some method, something else. So see, it's not just a transaction. I think the Swedish company can do that a little bit better because they already have the networks for that. And also the recommendation to always have this a company that support you with the local knowledge, the language, the culture, everything. I think it's right. Really, be humble.
Definitely. I think it works from both sides.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, Leo, you mentioned a bit about the cultural differences.
Yeah.
You stood here 2 years ago with your presentation on cultural differences from a Dutch-Swedish perspective, showing Sweden as a outlier on the international business map. So you've had some experiences with that. Are there any very important unwritten rules that a company that wants to enter Sweden should know about the Swedish market?
I'd say don't underestimate how flat organizations are and how flat decision making is in Sweden. I mean, even if you spend time convincing one individual on paper very nice position within a company, that might not get you the end result of a contract, for example. But decisions are really taken in this consensus-based way that we like to talk about in Sweden, where you need to really respect and work with different functions and value them, because their opinion will be highly valuable to the formal decision makers in the companies. So there's a lot of informal leadership as well in Sweden to respect.
Yeah, I think it's a very good advice, especially for countries like Poland, where let's say you have a hierarchy in a companies or in a business. It's much more bigger attention is put on that. Here in Sweden, it's the positions in the company are not so important like it is in Poland. So. I think it's very and here also what we have noticed that is like also Leo mentioned that it's a collective. Usually many people are involved in making a decision. So and people on the different levels are involved in this process. So I think it's a very good point, and it's a very big difference, because in Poland it's typical that if there is gonna making a big deal, it's a CEO of the company is coming and so on. It's here in Sweden it really doesn't matter. At least that's my impression, and I think that's okay. I personally really like it. I think in Poland we are a little bit crazy about all this position, and I think it's a little bit overestimated. Yeah.
But I think also like the journey towards understanding the Swedish business culture, if that's what you want to call it, it's quite a long journey. So in order to get somewhere in a reasonable amount of time, I mean, like Christer suggested, to have some guidance or some partner or advisor helping you could be a very useful tool. Having a partnership with the local company could be a very useful tool, or perhaps an acquisition of a local company. But to really see the value of that, to not just think that, but we'll learn by doing and then we will get the result, but really take some help along the way. I think that's really important.
We are doing this as we always have done in our home market. Also, but we need new influences also.
Yeah.
So
of course, maybe I would like to add a bit, because I'm also Polish. So I've been talking to a lot of Polish companies. There are, I think, 60 exhibiting here at Nordbygg. In Poland, we kind of think that we're known for efficiency, that we can take decisions very fast.
Yeah.
How did you adapt to the Swedish decision style? Did you have to do that, or did you integrate the Polish fast decision making with the Swedish business culture?
Yeah, it's I agree that in Poland the thing is like that there is a big difference that even here in Sweden you are preparing for starting the contract very long time. It's a very long process, but then finally when the decision is made, then it goes smooth. And in Poland, it is like that someone is waiting till the very end with the decision. And then here, when we get the orders from the Swedish market, it is like that. I have now in pipeline the projects which we're supposed to start somewhere in mid of next year. In Poland, it's like that someone is coming and saying, okay, you have an order, but then you are coming on site in 4 weeks or something like that. It's crazy. So honestly, it's if you get used to this environmental, you appreciate that. It's starting to be a little bit. Of course, it has. You need to get used to that. You need to get used to that. That it's that this in the beginning. As I mentioned, it takes time, but in the end, it's more predictable. It's easier to control. Of course, it's more demanding and so on and so on. But all in all, it's easier from our perspective. When we are active on the German market, we are active on the most active on the Polish market, and in Sweden as well. It's better to work here compared to the Polish construction market.
Is there something that you wish you had known before entering Sweden?
Yeah, you know, it's that before we came here. I think it's important that the way you work on your home market, sometimes it's not enough on the Swedish market, especially in the terms of safety, of project planning, and on these factors there is much more bigger attention. Okay. Pekabex also passed a pretty long way during the last 15 years, but when we started here 15 years ago, let's say our safety or our imagination of safety on construction site, I can say, was slightly bit different what we faced here when we came. So this is very important that you, before you enter, you do some homework, that you prepare here, and just simply you have to respect the rules which on the market, because we are fully aware of that we are guests on this market. And then, of course, we are present on the market, on the foreign market, when there is such a need. And of course, we have some values which we are bringing here. It's obvious, but the thing is like that you just need to adapt to the rules which are here. So that was something what it would be better to know a little bit more just before we did the first assembly project. Yeah, because there is a little bit different on the when you just ship the material, and there is a little bit different when you do the works in a foreign country. Yeah.
Leo, maybe shifting a bit to looking ahead and what's coming. We've seen the big infrastructure projects. You're part of one. Where would you say are the biggest opportunities for international companies in the coming years?
Before answering that question, just let me quickly mention something about the previous question, because just adding one more thing that I think is quite interesting as a foreign company coming to Sweden is that part of our business culture that we haven't talked about here yet is also that we're very honest. So I think that when you're talking to a client, or if you're talking to your partner or talking to your supplier, I think you should at least calibrate for that. I mean, you can always meet an individual that is not, but in general, it's a very, very honest business culture. So dare to actually listen to their advice. That would also be a final piece of ideas from my side. Then looking ahead, I think that it's really about looking at what is the technical knowledge that will be needed in Sweden. For example, there are huge investments planned within railway. We are currently collaborating with a Spanish railway company to learn from their expertise within building light rail projects, since we haven't had that many in Sweden in recent history. And I mean, that way of thinking about things dictate a lot of what is interesting in Sweden. So rail is big. Also, some marine works are quite large volumes coming, and some other areas as well. But if you look beyond that, I really think that what it comes down to, the focus areas in Sweden in general, I think the green transition is one of the biggest topics in the market. And I think that if you have competence or a supply chain that is adding something special in that way, you will have a good opportunity to find local partners to work with.
Christer, would you like to add something? Do you have an advice for a company that wants to enter?
I can both give advices, but also, as Leo said, and the last thing, the green industry, and we all know what's behind the green industry, it's electricity. So in the power grids, in the line, we have a lot of bottlenecks on the Swedish market. We also have a lot of bottlenecks from the client, that's SVK, that's sitting in the top. They are not used to have this big portfolio, but be patient, coming in, present, meet them, bring them value. And I think all these things can, of course, it's not happening over a day, but it will happen. And we have seen that on the infrastructure side. This wasn't happening in 1 year. It has been ongoing for 15 years at least.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but always, I think we always, whatever you do in your life, to try to bring value and the best value you can add in, but then you need to compromise a little bit with what the client wants, what the regulations are.
Yeah.
Perfect. We actually have to wrap up. We have about 30 seconds left. Just one final question. If you'd like to describe the Swedish market, maybe on 2 words, just to give you a quick round. It says in my paper, positive closing energy and big smiles with capital letters. So, Christer, maybe we should start with you. 2 words about the Swedish market.
Always use a local advisor, I will say. You can make success.
Perfect. Leo.
Okay, I'll try to stick to the instructions here. So I'll say that it's quickly growing and that it is moving towards the green transition and digitalization.
Leszek.
Okay, so if shall I describe? So it's a trust, patient, and coffee. A lot of coffee.
Coffee, yeah. The most important thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.